Hey everybody, hope you guys are all doing well, and thanks for taking the time to watch my third video. I know it's been a while since I posted, but I been kind of busy these past couple weeks, and but I did have the time on this past weekend just to think about what I wanted to talk about, and um, yeah, just the more I thought about it, the more I realized that there's a lot of hard things that I experienced during my time at SCV, and there's a lot that I could talk about. But for this video, I just wanted to focus on those first couple years and to share some of the main struggles that I had to deal with. So yeah. Um, so to start things off, I wanted to talk about the very first day that we arrived at CV, and that was on September 3rd, 2014, and it was on a Wednesday. And before we even moved down there, we had already picked out a house that we were going to rent in town. And like if we needed to go to campus, then we would just drive there. But when we got there, we found out that there were some complications, and we ended up not being able to rent that house. And so basically, we got there with all our stuff, but didn't have a place to live. um, and so we basically just spent the rest of the day trying to find houses in town, and we couldn't really find any. But it ended up being an empty house on campus, and that was kind of like our last option. So we ended up moving into that house. So yeah, it was a very frustrating and just stressful day, because we had this plan or this idea of where we were going to live at, what kind of house we were going to have, but like on the very first day, our plans just went out the window, but that's how it is on the mission, in the mission life, and there's a lot of inconsistency. um, you can't really plan ahead, and there's a lot that changes every single day, and that can make things very, very stressful and very frustrating. So yeah. And then because it was on a Wednesday, there was church that night, and I do remember going to church for the first time, um, and I was pretty scared and just pretty nervous. And then of course it was all in Spanish, so I had no idea what they were saying. But but I do remember one of the staff members coming up to me and just starting a conversation with me. He was just trying to get to know who I was and what my hobbies were, and even though I didn't really care that he was doing that at the time, looking back, I'm very glad he did. It showed that he was trying to welcome me, and that he cared about me, and that he cared about this new guy that just showed up on campus. So yeah. But then that night, I do remember laying in my bed and like saying out loud, like, well, there's no turning back. Like, this is my new life, and there's nothing I can change about that. And I remember that, just crying about that, and yeah, just having a lot of negative thoughts going through my mind, and just thinking of all the things that I was gonna miss out on because I wasn't living in the States anymore. So yeah, that was a rough night. I didn't get much sleep. So um, so yeah. So to summarize it, the my first day was pretty horrible, I would say, but like even for our family, it was just a pretty rough day. Just of having all that stress and frustration, and all the unknown. So yeah. But to move on, so like I mentioned in my last video, the reason why we moved down there was because Dad was going to take on the role of operations management, and but he didn't really step into that role till about 6 or 7 months after we moved down. So during those 6 or so months, we focused more like on the house, so like moving our stuff in there, working on projects or working on the landscaping, and then we also started Spanish classes with one of the staff members, and then I also started my homeschool, which was a completely new experience. So yeah, just a lot of new stuff all coming in at the same time. It's kind of be thrown in my face, and that was really hard. It was very overwhelming. Because I felt like I didn't even have the capacity to deal with how I was feeling just about being there, because that was overwhelming for me. So now trying to deal with all these new stuff, trying to learn the language, the culture, my my new style of schooling, that's a lot. And because it felt so overwhelming, I gave up a lot, and I got frustrated a lot, like every day. um, and it made me just isolate myself. I spent a lot of time in my room or just in the house, or I would go find a place on campus and just spend hours there by myself, day after day, month after month. Um, and because I was 13, and I didn't really have any life experiences. I didn't really know how to respond to these situations in a healthy way. Just the easiest way for me was just to block it off, put that wall up, and not deal with it. And that's what I did for a long time. For 6 to 12 months. Um, and and yeah, so and I would say that because I didn't know how to deal with it, and I also didn't desire to learn how to deal with it. I didn't go to my parents for help, or I didn't try to find people on campus that could maybe relate to what I was feeling, and so then they could help me. I didn't try go looking for that kind of help. I before we moved down there, the counseling center made sure that each one of us had mentors. So I did talk to my mentor. Like I would send him emails and just explaining how I was feeling. But he was 2,000 miles away, so it's not the best person to tell your problems to. But so so yeah, I definitely, so I still did express my feelings, but not with anybody that was around me or that could be with me in the moment. So that was really hard. That just a poor choice that I made during that time, and like even now, coming back to the States, um, there's I'm still I still deal with some of those same frustrations and emotions that I dealt with during those 6 months. But now that I have that experience and I know what it's like to to feel that way, I've been trying to learn from that and trying to learn how to respond in a healthy way and make better choices, and to seek out the help that I just really need. So then I'm not stuck in isolation, or I'm not stuck, or I'm not just alone all the time. That's still really hard, even though I experienced that and I learned from those mistakes. It's still really hard now to 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 do that. But so yeah, so just trying to learn from those experiences and apply them to my life right now has been really good. Um, but I would say just that feeling of being overwhelmed was definitely one of the hardest things that I went through. Um, you know, and and that kind of led to um, my struggle in my spiritual life, and like I mentioned in my testimony, because I kept getting more and more frustrated each day. I started showing that toward God, and I really started to doubt during that time that He would use these hardships for His good. That He would that they had a purpose in my life, and they were going to bring good into my life. And I know I really lacked the faith during that time, and God's ability to 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 use me, and and even though I struggled with finding friendships, and eventually I was able to start those friendships. I would say I definitely struggled in my in the spiritual side of things much longer. Probably like the next 2 years or so. Like I definitely didn't grow spiritually. There was still a lot of resentment in my heart toward God and toward His love toward me. Um, and yeah, and I think I'm gonna make a a video specifically about just the spiritual side of things, and that deep valley I went through, and then how I got out of that. So yeah, I won't say too much about that right now, but yeah, that spiritual struggle was definitely a huge valley that I went through, especially the 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 former half of being there at CVE. Um, but so then yeah, and like I said, just trying to apply that to my life now, and like even toward the last few years that I was at CVE, after I had gone through that valley, just seeing those kids who were maybe going through the same thing that I had gone through. You have so much compassion for them because you know what they feel like, but you also know that there's hope of an escape out of that, because I was able to escape from that. God was able to pull me out of that loneliness, of that despair. So my compassion definitely grew toward those kids, because they struggled so much every single day, and you just want to help them so much because there's a way out. There's light at the end of the tunnel. But then also trying to apply that to my life currently, because I do feel like I'm kind of going back into a valley. After we moved back, I kind of went back into a valley of despair and loneliness. Just trying to work that, trying to get out of that, and use those experiences for good. Um, so then yeah, so like I said, about the friendships, um, I was able to look back at some pictures and at some dates, and like about around April or March, in 2015, so about 8 or 9 months after we had moved down. I definitely started forming friendships with certain people, and yeah, so like, but I definitely wasn't real open with them. I definitely um, kept to myself. Was still pretty quiet, and and I didn't have a a real passion to hang out with a big group, or it's just certain people at certain times. But yeah, but I'll definitely touch base on that in other videos of of just how I was able to overcome these struggles. Um, but I did want to talk about another main struggle, and that was it was a year after we had been there, and um, when I said that I had started my homeschooling when we got there, it actually was too overwhelming that I actually stopped doing it, and I just took a year off school. So that whole year from September till August, I didn't do any school. Um, but then August 2015, my parents and I guess you can say I was also involved, but we decided to have me be a part of this school that was on campus. So yeah, so that means my school was all in Spanish. So the lectures were in Spanish. The homework was in Spanish. My essays had to be in Spanish. My speeches had to be in Spanish. The textbooks were in Spanish, and that was like really overwhelming because even though we had taken Spanish classes, they weren't super um, formal. So I didn't really learn a lot of the grammar or a lot of the vocabulary. So I definitely wasn't like fluent, but I understood decently, but I couldn't talk it very well, speak it very well. And so yeah, so just being put into that of of being forced to talk in Spanish and being forced to listen in Spanish, that was really that was very stressful and very hard. But most of my teachers were bilingual, and most of the kids there could speak English. So like if I did need if I did need help with my work, then they could help me. Like I could talk to them in English, or like sometimes my classmates would talk to me in English too. So it's not like I was forced to talk Spanish all the time. But yeah, I remember after the first day of school, my family and I went out to eat in town, and I just had my hands in my face like the entire time, just like completely wiped out and like just feeling completely overwhelmed and feeling like this was an impossible task to complete. Like how am I ever gonna do how in the world can I do my school in Spanish? Because like I I remember my first essay I wrote. Um, it might have been for like I forget which class it was for, but I basically wrote it all in English, and then I got Google Translate it. I got Google Translate and copied it to Google Translate and then translated it all because I had no idea what the words were in Spanish, and that's how I did some of my homework, and which is a terrible way to do it because Google Translate is terrible. but um, but yeah, but over time, I definitely picked up on things pretty fast. I was able to understand my teachers and understand their lectures pretty well. And like, so it's not like I failed. I actually did pretty well. Um, but yeah, that was just I would say probably the first the first semester of that year was just really challenging. And I definitely wanted to give up a lot, and took a lot of self motivation and a lot of discipline to actually do my homework and to wake up in the morning and and go to and have school in Spanish. Um, but yeah, but I'm pretty thankful that I did go through that. It did teach me a lot of discipline. To just to keep at it things and to not give up so easily. Because like I remember I told one of my teachers because we had to give a speech for my science class, and like I told her like, hey, I can't do this, and she pretty much told me like, well, then you're gonna get an F. So then so then I did do it. And I did pretty well actually. but but yeah, so those are definitely those are definitely the main struggles that I dealt with those first 2 years, and like yeah, just spent a lot of time in isolation. Like I remember I would never go to any of the young group events. I wouldn't go to any of the Bible studies because I felt like because I just couldn't understand. I think the language barrier was a huge thing because I definitely felt like an outcast because I couldn't understand what they were saying, or like when everyone was talking in groups, I wanted to be able to participate, and I just felt embarrassed, and it's like why would I even go if I don't understand anything? That's the excuse that I gave a lot, or that I told myself. Um, so yeah, I did that for like a year or a couple of years. Um, so yeah, I'm just but but yeah, but just looking, just looking back, and I do feel there are some things that I wish I would have done differently, but most of me is thankful that I did go through those hard things. Because I was able to see myself grow and to see myself branch out, and to push myself and to put myself in uncomfortable situations, even if it came to a point of embarrassing myself. And I definitely learned that. Like one thing I would change is you know is forcing myself to was forcing myself to speak the language more, to not have that language barrier be an excuse to not participate in with people or at certain events. That's something that I definitely would have changed, was just to challenge myself and not be afraid to mess up, or just what other people think of me. Um, but but yeah, and like I feel like, and like I said, even though I have learned a lot of stuff just about who I am and who I can become, and just the type of person that God wants me to be, and the type of person that God can make me be. Um, you know, there's still a lot of valleys that I are still lot of hardships that I'm dealing with right now, and it's really easy for me just to give up on that, and to give up trying. And even though I know there's light at the end of the tunnel, I know there's there's always a way out. There's always something good waiting for me at the end. Because but it's still really hard just to to push myself, and to have that kind of my mindset when everything around you just seems dark and um, discouraging. So, but yeah, so I'm not sure how much time I got. Probably like 20 minutes or so. Which um, so yeah, I guess I think that's a pretty good summarization. Again, these are just the first couple years. I'll probably make another video about kind of what I struggled with the last couple of years, and then also that spiritual battle that I went through. And and just how that was for me as a Christian. So yeah, so thanks guys for watching this, and hope you guys enjoy it. So.